Okay, today's guest is Philip Kinsella, who is both a UFO researcher and author, as well as a psychic medium. He has won 3 awards, 2 for his clairvoyance and 1 for his dedication to the truth within UFO research. He has appeared on numerous documentaries, national television, coast to coast, as well as other major networks. He is currently exploring varied theoretical models surrounding consciousness and is working on new theories which tackles the UFO paranormal field of investigation. Let's welcome today's guest, Philip Kinsella. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm so grateful to you, Adam. It's wonderful to be on your amazing show.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit a few seconds before in terms of the journey the that everybody is on their own specific timeline, their own specific pace of where they're headed. Sometimes the frustration that builds up of trying to have people understand the concepts and uh, understandings that one has gone through.
Yes.
Uh, and it becomes a, I guess, an inside job, so to speak, right? In order.
Yeah. I mean, we live by a system that tells us that what is real and what is not real. And my journey began really with regards to UFOs, if I may mention that. Of course, my identical twin brother and myself had an experience in broad daylight with our maternal grandmother in 1982, and outside their garden in Middlesex, and they had a big house, and this orb was either like the size of a football that silver came over very fast within a clear blue sky, and it hung directly where, because the house was 3 stories high, and it hung around about where the second floor bedroom windows were, and our grandmother was right below it, and we were in front of our grandmother. And of course, that was an experience that started the ball rolling for me because we couldn't work it out. I always thought that a UFO was bigger than a football, and of course, Ronnie and I were both, my twin brother and I were the laughing stock. And I wanted at that point to find out. Of course, there were varied other experiences, major close-up experiences, that led then into the psychic phenomena of all things. So the system tells us, well, UFOs don't exist, and psychic phenomena, consciousness is just basically something that can be explained, that we live as a piece of meat, I'm sorry, and then we die. And I'm like, well, either I must be lying or the system's lying. And even as the 13-year-old, Adam, I wanted to explore exactly what this was. And that is what led me on my journey. And it has its twists and its turns, as you very well know yourself as an inspirational figure, that your life leads you down this very strange, bizarre alleyway. And sometimes you get a little bit stuck, and sometimes you're trying to find a way out of it. But yes, that is how it all began for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because, many people who I interview who either have near-death experiences, and in their near-death experience, they have encounters with loved ones or galactic beings or alien beings themselves. And what's interesting is, as you just mentioned, some people are encountered by these experiences at earlier ages, and others maybe later on in life. Um, do you think do
Yes.
you think this experience was setting you up for the work you do now in order to be able to speak about it, so that you had a resume, so to speak, of information?
Yes, I think that to a degree, although we have free will, there is so much that each and every one of us can explain and tell in terms of our journey. But it did feel as though I was being guided because after a major UFO event in 1989, which they would call an abduction, it was quite traumatic experience for me. And again, I went forward. And this led me into a theoretical model with regards to the Greys. And of course, there were some reptilians there as well, too, which was not spoken about back then. But I wanted to find out what we were dealing with. And of course, my experience then led me to the physical and non-physical aspect of the experience that I had. And I created a model that was published back in years ago in a magazine they called Revolutionary within its speculation. But I went to go and see a medium, and changing the subject from UFOs, because people tend to put these subject matters in separate boxes, like, well, UFOs are in there and cryptids are here and
Right.
near-death experiences. And I did almost die, and I had an experience, and I've had quite a lot of experiences in what we call the psychic phenomena and the other side. And And of course, I went to go and see a medium after my maternal grandmother had passed over with cancer because the night that she passed, she was in a Somerset hospital, and we were here in Bedfordshire. And I was trying to sleep, and then I started to cry. And then her voice, as clear as day, a week after we'd seen her, came into my head when I'm laying there crying. Why are you crying? Why are you crying? And she showed me in my mind a picture of her holding my identical twin brother and myself in her arms as twin babies. And then there was silence and the phone rang. So I went to go and see a medium who used to work for the FBI in America on cold soul cases. And she was the one that eventually taught me because she said, "You're a born psychic." And I was like, no, 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 I don't want anything to do with that. Thank you. But I was curious. And she said to me that you'd make a connection between this psychic and UFO phenomena. I didn't quite understand what she was talking about. So I get the feeling that we are led, we are directed, we are helped, whether or not we choose most of this on the other side through some kind of contract. And I absolutely believe that we are guided. Oh, absolutely. And we have free will, of course. But what I did find very humorous, Adam, and you'll laugh at this, was I thought, my God, there is the guy that believes in UFOs and claims, and I've got to use that word because it did happen, but people claim that you've had an experience. And now he's talking to the dead. I thought my reputation, such as it was, would go straight down the
Yeah, yeah.
so, so this is where the dynamics, the excitement of the system that we serve, because it's saying to us, no, 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 psychic phenomena doesn't exist. You don't live after you've died, and there's no such thing as UFOs. But I'm like, well, yes, but I think the phenomena is far different from what you have directed into the media machine, even in ridiculous ways. And people are now scratching their heads and asking questions, serious questions now. So I do believe we are guided.
Yeah, you look at the life, the existence that we have, and I think when you set up in a position of being maybe the lone wolf in certain situations in childhood, and going through different experiences where you not rebel, but you stand up against systems that you're being pushed or forced into. I think when the soul is supposed to be or stand out or express the things that you're expressing, I think that's the setup or the path that's laid out for us to go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This is fascinating, Adam, because I wanted to find out, which I'm doing now, what makes us different? Why are there many other good, wonderful souls or spirits that are on this planet who are not touched by the singularity, and why there are certain individuals who are selected, whether or not it be being a healer,
Right.
a shaman, whatever, a clairvoyant, a contactee. And I've never felt like I belonged on this planet. And that is the truth of God. Even as a kid, when I saw ET, I cried. I saw it the movies, the Odeon, and I because I wanted to go with ET and get off planet. When I saw Star Wars, I wanted to get off of this world and go in the Millennium Falcon. I felt kind of homesick. And then of course now as you evolve, because we all go through a process of spiritual evolution, when I think back to the day when I was 13 years old and I had this interest in UFOs, which I still do today on a theoretical level, because we don't really know what we're dealing with them, it was like, well, you go through these changes. And it's quite remarkable that you tend to think now, well, people used to laugh back in the day about abductions. And now all of a sudden we have professors and scientists from academia that is taking it seriously. And like now we're dealing with, near-death experiences. And the system was saying, no, the system loves faith because faith can't be proven through science. If there's any data that comes forward, say, for instance, proving near-death experiences, then it's like, oh no, on the media networks, yes, there's life after death, then no. So it's really evil what the system's doing to us and the public in swaying these opinions. But certainly, I do feel like I'm not from here. And in terms of extraterrestrial experiences, well, I've got to laugh because
Yeah.
the Egyptians, they wanted to get off the planet with their souls. They knew about the afterlife, although their version's very different from the way we see it. And they wanted to get off world. So why not? Perhaps it's possible that we are from different star systems that have decided to incarnate upon the Earth at extraordinary times. And it's possible that we're here to try and awaken other souls in this flawed version of reality that I see it.
Yeah. What's it? What I find interesting is the fact that we as humans are always looking for something to validate the things that we believe in or we're sketchy about. When we're on the fence about something, we need something to convince us. I think once we've done that inner work ourselves and come to the conclusions of what we believe and feel strongly in that, I think then it's a matter of just knowing. It's a knowing rather than having somebody else tell us something. I mean, obviously, we're looking in the news for people to tell us this, to say that about UAPs, about UFOs. Even the term itself, UFOs, is shifted to UAPs in order to lengthen the definition or its significance.
Yes, that's very interesting. For a system that tells us or did explain to us that UFOs are a load of old rubbish, an unidentified flying object, and now the acronym of which has been changed to unidentified aerial or anomalous phenomena, which is closer to home. So, how can you change the acronym when you are stating to the public that it doesn't exist? But now we've got to a point, a really exciting point here, where there's pressure on the system to come forward and come clean about this. And I believe myself personally that the truth, if the truth came out, and we're all entitled to our opinions, I may be wrong, will be far more fantastic and in to some extent horrifying, because if the system revealed to the public the reality of the UAP phenomena, it would be far different from the simple, controlled narrative that the media was drip feeding into the public, that it's all a load of rubbish and you're dealing with little green men from another planet. I think the public's jaws will be on the floor. And it's not just about the UAP, because if they, the system, was to release what they know to the public, I believe that the public will then start putting the dots together, because this phenomenon has been here for a very, very long time. And this also will bring into the fray alternative dimensions of reality and off-world connections, so to speak. So the way I'm seeing it is that, and I've got to say this, I'm not negative, I'm the most positive person on this planet, but we've got to be, realistic here. We live by a system that I'm sure you're seeing and I'm seeing, and we try to rise above that, that is absolutely adamant to pull the wool over our eyes and continue this cycle, this depressing cycle of work, pay your taxes, don't ask any questions, and then you're leading further towards the grave before you go out. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I agree, and that's what I'm looking for now. I'm working on a new book, which is addressing ancient codices and trying to make connections with what's going on here today, that the system has tried to cover and whitewash and change and alter most of the script or the narrative.
Yeah.
But certainly, absolutely, when people say, I want proof, I want proof. Well, you're not going to get it, to be honest with you, other than photographic film footage or sound, capturing sounds of them, which is very rare. You're not going to get it because we're looking at something that is operating on a different frequency vibration of reality, and you, Adam, know that better than anyone.
Well,
So yeah, there will be, when they say I want proof, I want proof. The last experience that my twin brother and I had, it was quite incredible, of UFOs. There were massive, three of them in triangular formation. They were separate crafts. There was on the 9th of April 2016 at precisely 11:15 p.m. at night. We come back from some police friends from an early birthday meal, and I was driving. And these objects, there was no missing time. They were incredible. There was no sound, but they did bring with them a level of high strangeness where in our road, we have a quiet road, but on a Saturday night, which it was, there would be people coming down from the pub. We've got a pub down the road.
yeah.
No one, nothing. And this did lead then to me investigating this fully and finding out these objects have been tracked from the Isle of Scilly. And people say, I want proof, I want proof. I had my mobile phone on me. The last thing I wanted to do was put my hand in my pocket, take my attention away from the descended crafts, three of them in a triangular formation, and take a film just to satisfy the public so that the public could tear it apart even more. I'm not interested. You do find, as you know, that it becomes personal. It's like a personal voyage, a personal journey of revelation, of knowing that there is more than this material existence,
Yeah.
and trying to get your head round. I mean, I go through my good days and my bad days because trying to exist in this world is very difficult, very hard, because there's a lot of good folk out there who,
Yes.
yeah, they're lovely, beautiful souls. So it could be termed as a bit of a curse that you've awoken and that you're standing there and it's like everyone's like just getting on with their ordinary lives, God love them. And you're like saying, oh my God, there's so much more. So yeah, I agree with you there, most definitely.
Yeah. I look at it from my perspective as going on the journey of the dark night of the soul within ourselves. And I think once we've traveled that path into the web of our own pain and suffering, I think we come out at the other side of the cave, so to speak, into the universe. And we're open then to the new and connections. I think when people hide their pain and darkness, they then reflect that shaming to the external world for anybody who's trying to reveal that openness or that journey itself. And speaking on just on that specific note, I guess you could touch upon it, but it brought me to the sense of the military-industrial complex in terms of how that aspect of that power is really maybe the driving force behind the revelation and the suppression. And maybe you could touch upon both, if well, either one.
Yes, well, I mean, we all know about the Roswell case. I mean, that's one of the most famous UFO cases, in fact, the crowning glory of controversy, where a craft crashed in the region of Roswell, New Mexico, and Matt Brazel was out there and found scattered pieces all over the place, took it to the sheriff Wilcox, and then of course the army came involved, and then they got involved, and then they sealed the area off and took the wreckage away, and first proclaimed it was a flying disc that they had in their possession, and then changed to a Mogul weather balloon, an experimental weather balloon. So secret, in fact, that they didn't even know it was out there. I mean, maybe it doesn't take much for
Yeah.
you to work out. Now, so my question is, what is the system hiding? And the industrial complex, military industrial complex, most of this material, as we understand, that is within the possession of someone is under private contractors, so that there would be no paper trail or trace with regards to these people. And I really am absolutely convinced that we are being visited by extraterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, interdimensional beings. And I've just got to say this, okay, because if and this has gone into my new book about the Three Eye Atlas. Just giving one example here, the system is saying to us, well, you're a bunch of idiots, really, because you're just all full of conspiracy and there's no reality to it. But how can you then debunk the public when there is something within our solar system that exhibits unusual qualities? And I'm speaking with regards to Three Eye Atlas. And Abbey Loeb was a wonderful man, a brilliant scientist who we adore and love because he put his neck out there on the line to say, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
This is interesting. And then as the object came into range within the Mars rover, where the Mars rover would be able to take much clear images of the object, as we know in the Chinese Space Administration, it all went dead. So you're telling me that there's no conspiracy to be had, and that would have then validated once and for all to the general public that yes, it's just a comet, which they didn't think it was, or it could be something else. So when we talk about the deep state, as it were, and there definitely they are in existence, and they probably got tabs on all of us to make sure that we're staying in line and in check. Um, and I'm thinking to myself, so obviously there's something going on here because we're not being shown the truth of what's really going on. I mean, space is for all of us to see, but it's privatized by NASA, which is now under military jurisdiction, which is contracted through the military. And the way I'm seeing it, Adam, is that we, as the humans, well, spiritual beings, humans incarnate within the system, are being blinded. It's like someone somewhere does not want us to see
Yes.
what is really going on. And the question that I've been asking is, why? Why is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? And that's the underline, underscore, but why? So there's obviously a reason the system does not want the public to know about what's really going on. And it isn't because of fear, and it isn't because everyone will go willy-nilly. I mean, we've had certain world events that didn't send people all, going crazy. Now, I think there's a far darker and more nefarious reason behind that myself personally. And I think that if the system, I call it the system, was to reveal the facts, now you never know if we're going to get the truth or not from them, but if they were, I think that will be a game changer for us as researchers, and it will be the end game for the system that's got this control in operation of how things are working at the moment and the way they want it to keep working. So,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's interesting. You know, I've watched the Project Blue Book
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
and with Alan J. Hynek. And interestingly enough, I happen to have been in New Hampshire one evening. I was on a little trip, and intuitively, psychically, it came through to me, and which I was just on the border of trying to understand the phenomenon that we're talking about now, but I didn't have an understanding, and I was probably even skeptical in some capacity. And I said to myself intuitively, I was in a little town, and I said, somewhere in this town, there was something that happened with an alien encounter. This is my thought, came right to my mind. Sure enough, I was staying in the hotel right outside of where Betty and Bonnie Hill,
Yeah.
where their plaque stands. I think it's in Lincoln or North
Wow.
Conway, New Hampshire. I went right outside and I told the person I was with, I said, something happened here. And I looked it up, and then they said, right outside the hotel is a statue where New Hampshire recognizes the Betty, Bonnie, and Hill encounter. And interesting, I was also on that road maybe 15 years ago before I even thought about that. And I said, what would happen? This is such a, like, it's such an eerie feeling almost. Not that the encounter could be eerie, but you almost felt, I felt connected with the universe driving on this desolate road in the
Mm,
mountains. And it
yeah.
happened to have been, I connected all these pieces almost as if I was transferring the experience that they may have had while I was
Yes.
driving on the road. I felt that. I felt that.
Yes.
And so it's such an yeah. So for me, I've had other encounters as well. I've had sightings above my roof where somebody saw a being standing there in the middle of the night while they were playing
Oh,
outside, and a blue
wow.
light, a blue orb flying right over my car by the airport. And I also had an
Wow.
encounter with a ship on the beach about 3 years ago. It saw me and it took off. So to compound what you're saying and to reiterate the points that you bring about as an expert in this field, on the level that I've understood it, it's made it so clear to me the things that you are saying are so relevant.
Yes, and I think it also the phenomena when you are touched by it, when it interacts with you, there is some kind of connection, and we're not able to explain in words what that connection is. It's kind of exciting to a degree because the excitement is, and I know that you have positive and negative, but it's exciting because it's telling us, hang on just a minute, just a moment. Hey, 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 hey. So there is so much more than what we represent. And when you have these experiences, I mean, I've had a number of very close range experiences. And I will not, I don't elaborate, add or subtract. They are as they are. And I've been dealing a lot with consciousness, conscious studies, and seeing how that operates. And there is this connection with these beings, as it were, that I believe are trying to reach out to us. But I do believe that there is also a group, and has been a group here for a very long time, that is running the show. And a lot of what they theoretically, I thought, were revealing was more to do with the astral than actually on the physical level of integration. And they've got to make a connection with us on some level. And that was my research back in 1996. And then, of course, through varied models that have changed. We're all important. We all have our own thoughts. But it was a personal journey for me. And I thought, well, I could share it with people to see what they think. And I know you get attacked by people. That's fine. I'm not there to argue with them. And I'm very open-minded with all areas. But this is big. This is massive. It's not as contained as the system would have us believe. And that's something that I wrestled with back in the early and then late 90s, then going into 2000. And then, of course, you get to this point where it's not as clear cut as people make out it is. It is quite incredible. And this is why I think there are correlations to be made within what we call the phenomena or the supernatural, the paranormal, and in terms of UFOs. And this is why I'm trying to break away the brackets of UFOs here and cryptids here, and I think
Yeah.
it's a personal experience. I think this is thing is personal, unique to you. What's happening to you, Adam? What's happening to me? What happened to Betty and Barney Hill?
Yes.
And I'm very honoured to know their niece, Kathy Marden, as she's a lovely, lovely dear friend. And I never would have believed that reading their case back then, and then all of a sudden, years later, I meet her in Phoenix, Arizona,
Wow.
at a UFO function, and then with Stanton Friedman was there as well. They were so lovely, and we just made a connection then. And you'll find this with your life that it's not like name dropping. It is amazing within its symmetry to know how you get these connections and where it's like you're being fueled by destiny to, okay, let's take you here. Now we're going to let you work this one out and we're going to bring you to this person or this experience and we're going to let you. So it's quite incredible, I think, really, when you think about the huge complexity of life and why we're here. And most people sadly don't question. They just go through life and I'm happy for them. And in some respects, I wish I was like that, where when I was a kid, a young kid, I was like happy in my world, creating my own little worlds, living this comfort, this little, and then all of a sudden that all gets shattered through the appearance of a UAP, the orb, the silver orb, and then it's just crazy. It's but incredible. I think it's quite fascinating for all of us.
There are people who are left-brained and right-brained, not to label it as such. And as I look at it from interviewing people who came from more of a left brain mindset of the professions that they operated in or were born into, as a dominant energy or a field. So in terms of addressing both aspects, how do you how do we reconcile the mystical and like spiritual frameworks with like scientific inquiry? with
Yes,
with our own
yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, now this is interesting because of the human genesis, and of course that's another. And I'm not the man that knows it all. I hardly know anything, but I'm very curious, and it's like I have to chip away at something. I'm not happy about something, and again about the genesis of the human, what we are, where we come from. You have two versions. One is through evolution, through Darwinism, and of course, we came evolved from apes. And you have the other version, which is more supernatural. But I believe there could be a merging of the two, and certainly going back into the ancient codices, which is describing different stories. My new book is detailing whether or not we are dealing with something that is more malevolent, the trickster, or whether or not there was ancient aliens, so to speak. It has to be looked into, and I know it'll upset a number of people, and I'm for both of them. But it is interesting about the human because some of the people here they don't question, they don't want to know, they just want to get what they can get through from life and other people, and that is their existence. And this is why I'm going back, Adam, to that point of saying, well, why are we different? What makes us different? Why are we wired differently? And I think there could be a reason that we perhaps are awakened, that we are trying to reach out to other people to assist and help them. It does, and this is the thing, because people will then throw all this at you. Oh, you think you're better than me? You
Yeah,
think you're special, and you just think, no, I'm
absolutely.
just me. And then you've got that psychological part where people are then using that to try and twist things around. I'm like, we're not here for that. We're just trying to discover something that is so incredibly unique and amazing. But at the same token, we're living by a system which is crushing the very foundation of what it means to be spiritual, what it means to be human, and sidetracking us from all of the reality of what's going on. So I think there's going to be a lot of self-assessments if the truth does come out that people will have to do, and especially with our beautiful planet, our amazing world that supports life here, that has been well hijacked.
Yeah.
Since ages past, I think that's the way it is, and I still believe there is a war going on, a spiritual war, if I may use that, but one that is a silent war, one that is not. You can't see it. It's more within. The war is within, as opposed to without, because the God force is within, and it's not without. And of course, so this new book that I'm working on will be addressing a lot of these principles of Genesis, of alternative theories just to look at, and leaving the reader or the person to think, well, that's a possibility. We can think about that. So, you have to be careful because whatever field you're in, as you probably well know, you're going to step on someone's toes and they're going to tell you how it is. And I'm like, we don't know how it is. We have an idea, we have a structure, we have a model. We're still trying to work around that model, that structuring. So yeah, but the secrets, yeah, is obviously telling us all that the phenomena is very much real and that there is a conspiracy, not via us, but by the system that's turning that around, psychological warfare, to make you look like you're an idiot or you're crazy or you're wearing the tin hat. No, we've gone past that point
Yeah.
now, I think, in life.
Yeah, the one of the other important subjects that I'm interested is consciousness
Yes.
and survival after death, continuum of the soul after death, the continuum of the soul through lifetime after lifetime. Uh, yeah,
Yes. Yeah, that is interesting because there's several theories about that. I mean, I have seen the other side. There was no tunnel to be had. I nearly drowned when we lived in South Africa. And I remember the experience well, and there was no tunnel to be had. I just found myself in this beautiful place. But I then eventually started having what I call bleed throughs, psychic bleed throughs. And it's incredible because the other side is more real than here. It doesn't feel real. It feels as though we're in a dream. It feels over there. How can I find the words to explain it? There are no words. It is real. It's actually the real thing. But then we've got to get to the point where there's a lot of contradiction about a false light. And this goes into more areas of the astral planes being, held by the archons and holding us in this grinding process of soul incarnation, white memory, as sloosh as we've heard. I'm not dismissing that at all. I believe that there is a darker force that's always been present here. We go back into the ancient antediluvian codices. Um, but what's interesting is the afterlife and the astral planes. And when I think about it, that's an area that really, because there's lower planes and higher planes. And we read a lot within the literature about attaining our godliness to reach back to the one. The nomad within Gnostic cosmology, God, whatever you want to call the infinite being of consciousness, of complete awareness. And there does seem to be a hierarchy of angels. Of course, as you're aware, the aeons were the first that were glorified by the one, that were created an expression of love. And of course, one of those aeons descended and fell. Pistis Sophia, who fell, and then, of course, created Yaldabaoth, who is Satan, the one true God, and of course, then the creation of the material realm. But one of the things that I find, especially within cryptozoology, and I'm not an expert in that, so I'm not an expert in anything. I've started looking into that. My question is, you have dead people, and I've seen two that are physically built up, only two in 30 years. One of them was a friend of mine who passed with cancer. So he manifested behind glass. There was no communication. And I didn't get anything from that. But you get these people that see their dead relatives. You get these cases where people have encounters with cryptids like the Sasquatch and the Dogman, horrifying accounts of the Dogman. And sometimes in these cases, they communicate via telepathy in some cases. And even the Greys through the abduction hypothesis. And I did a lot of research on that, came up with a few of my own models centered around the Greys and the cloning issue, the soul issue, myself back in the day. And I'm still working on that model. It feels like the human is so far removed from all of this. And it does make you feel sometimes like you are in an experiment, like the human model was created not just as a slave, which nothing much has changed today, but the human model, the Earth was originally created as some kind of experiment to see how we would be able to temporarily separate and see how we evolve. But my argument and a bit humorous here is it's gone peak tong. It hasn't gone very well at all.
Yeah.
So there seems to be this war of the spirit, the soul. I do believe there are two parts to that, which I was looking into, the soul and then the spirit, and of course the gods and so on and so forth. But the astral planes, yes, I believe that those forces are able to penetrate into our dimension of reality by way of those astral planes. They're interdimensional planes of reality. And Earth does feel like it's in darkness, and it does feel a bit like hell, doesn't it? It's heaven and hell.
Yeah, I mean, I know from my perspective of reading the Akashic Records itself, in terms of information that comes through, sometimes it seems open and sometimes it seems cloudier, as if there's an energetic web that's interfering with the information that comes through. Um, I mean, I'll get tidbits of information that'll be validated with certain future things that take place, and so I know that I'm in that place. But in terms of reading almost for yourself to increase your own level of awareness, even though the ego is involved in blocking out information it wants to hear or not to hear, I know from my perspective that there is sometimes a cloudiness that when you open it up. If I open it up the second time, it's as if it moved away a little bit.
Yeah,
I guess
I understand.
the persistence of sticking through something easily as opposed to forcing your will upon something, and I guess the allowing is another important aspect of the persistence that you have in terms of the work you're doing and me understanding what me trying to find information.
Yeah, and I do feel that I do absolutely believe there is a force here that's containing us. I'm absolutely certain of that, and that we're fighting to break free because we want to evolve, we want to progress, we want to share. This world is so backwards. I mean, you have to pay money to eat, to drink, to
Water.
clothe yourself. It is just insanity. So I do believe that there is a darker force that's been here. How they're doing it, I have my suspicions about that through the incarnation reincarnation process, and also the control to a degree of the astral planes. I wrote a book last year that came out last year called The Eternal Avatar with a very good dear friend, another medium and healer, Chris John Mays, a wonderful soul. And there was a case in there of one person that we know that had a life between life sessions. And in one of this life between life sessions, in his one of his lives, he was a doctor, he had a wife, he had a son and daughter, he had the perfect life. And he didn't want to die, and he's not wanting to go, but he goes. And then he goes to the other side. And he has a meeting with the council, and they say to him, "Well, you need to go back because, can you explain to us why you had and chose the perfect life?" And so he said, "Well, I wanted to experience that, I wanted a life where it was easy." So they kind of like the council told him, you need to go back, you need to reincarnate. And he didn't want to, but they were kind of pushy about it. So he went back, and then he ended up being a victim, a patient in the medical centers of Auschwitz. So I'm like, well, hang on just a minute, just a moment here. Hang on. So how can there be some form of spiritual progression if you came here and you had the perfect life, and then they told you on the other side that you need to come back, and
Yeah.
now you end up being the patient as opposed to the doctor, but under extreme horrifying conditions. So it's interesting when we look at where we are in terms of our spirit, in terms of our sovereignty. And as said before, there is an ultimate being, and I've always believed in that, an ultimate consciousness, divine source of absolute love and inspiration that has created or self-generated through these other beings. And then, of course, something's gone wrong here. There's always a drama and a problem somewhere in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've never felt like I belong here, and so I'm kind of like when I cross over, I didn't see a light, and I'm not saying that the light is like a trap, and we got, because someone asked me that question 10 years ago and I negated it. Oh no, you've got to go down the light, and now I'm not so sure because new data is surfacing, and we're like, oh, I'm not, and what I've done and looked into, so I don't really know. I don't think any of us will really know, but I will tell you that it's not just earth and heaven. people think, oh, it's the here and there and here and there, and it's like that's it. That's just the two places where we kind of like go. I believe that there are alternative dimensions of reality because when I was a kid, I watched Star Wars, and yes, for all of you out there who says and has said, or Philip Kinsella and his twin brother Ronald, they've written children's books and science fiction novels, a few of them, and they're imaginative. Like if you have an experience, you've got to have a blank canvas of a mind. You've got to
Yeah.
just be like no one.
Right, right, right.
When I saw Star Wars, when I saw Tatooine as a kid, I don't know what it was. It's like it hit me. It's like I've seen that before, not the film, but the place. It seemed to knock on something within my psyche
Wow.
that was bringing a memory back. And this is the thing I was going back to you, Adam, about bleed throughs. We all have them. It's like an opening and it's like, whoa, and then it just
Yes, yes.
shoots out. And so there is this layer, I believe, some force that's trying to stop us from remembering our souls, of our sovereignty, of where we come from. And please don't tell me it's because we don't remember because it would be an overload with our neurological processing. We have an astral body, we have a secondary body. It can handle all that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I believe personally that there are, oh my God, there are infinite dimensions of reality. They are real. It's incredible. It's amazing. But when you have them, when these bleed throughs come through to me, not all the time, but they're quite powerful when they do, and trying to translate that when they're happening, it's like, like, whoa, that, and it's you can't find the words to describe the glory. The it's like a release, like, oh, it don't matter. This don't matter. None of this here on earth matters. You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we get pulled back and sucked into the material realm, and we've got to get on with life. So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from there, Adam. Definitely.
I think the main objection, if what you're saying and what I understand from my own truth is that if we understand, and I want to share a little bit of a past life that resonates exactly with what you just said with the Auschwitz.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think if we uncover the past and recognize the fact that many of the emotions that we have don't exist from this life itself, and then
Yeah.
we're open to the fact that other lives could have impacted us, we can scoff it off and put it into that life and say, okay, that was then and this is now.
Wow.
But if we don't, and if we're able to go back or have an opening from a past life and saying, oh, that's why, possibly, not fully, but that's why. So I then can't be gaslit into the fears that are being presented to me in this life right now.
Ah, right.
And I say that on only because I've had an experience where I've had vivid recall from World War II of meeting people in this life who remember me from a past life, two people.
Wow.
So when I heard that, and I knew exactly that was, I've had readings done and said I was a doctor in Auschwitz. And I
Wow.
always, as a child, wore combat boots and suspenders and military looking clothes, Henley shirts like 1940 in college. And then I spoke German fluently when I went to Germany, and I took German. There was nobody taking German at that time. Uh, I came from a Jewish Christian family, a mixture of both. So that was, it was not understood of how I was coming to this idea. Then I moved to Germany, lived in Germany, married a German woman, divorced, and then 30 years later, I have a reading saying, you know, the reason you can't breathe from the vents in your phys ed, I was a phys ed teacher, why you can't breathe in the gym is because the vents were reminding you of something. And
Oh
I would look
my
at the
God.
vents and get a panic attack.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. That is amazing, Adam.
Yes.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with me. And that will be in my mind tonight. Well, I've got readings tonight. Well, not too long,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's fascinating because I think when you have these experiences, and especially the one I mean, I have past life memories, not through any form of regression, but they've been there. India, they've all been poor. I've always been down and out.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they've been a bit merciful in this life with me or myself. Not too. I'm not. I cut above the rest, but I'm getting through. But when I have these bleed throughs of these of the other side of these worlds, they are nothing less than breathtaking.
Yeah.
And when I get them, it feels as though we live this life physically, and we can only make one choice that will determine one outcome. But when you're over there, there is an infinite level of all of these potentialities, these possibilities that's filled with passion, with love, with creativity, with all the things that you would yearn to be and want to be, and the connections that you have with people that could have been but weren't. It is an incredible feeling of completeness. Now, I want to put something by you. Oh, and I know you're interviewing me, but this is a shared interview. So the year before last, and I had an experience for the first time that was quite profound, and people have told me it's a parallel life, and I'm kind of looking into that. But I just finished meeting with a wonderful UFO researcher in England, with him and his wife, Steve Aspin, and my twin brother and I was driving, coming back from their home, a long drive down the country roads and then main roads. And it was dark. And when I was driving, I then suddenly saw myself while I'm there, but over there, wherever over there is. And Adam, I had the perfect life. It was a shock because when it happened, I knew it. I knew my life. It was like better than here. It was like modern. It was like modern. I don't know how to explain it, but the shock of it. And then when I come back, I said to my brother, "You're not going to believe this." So that was the year before last, and then last year I had the same thing happen to me again, where I'm like an opening. It can happen randomly. I know that nothing's random, but for me, I can have to say it's random. It wasn't initiated by me thinking about it, and it happened again. And I'm like, when I get them, when I've had them. It's like, well, I'm there, but I'm here. But when I'm there, everything is there. Every dream, every wish, every desire, everything that you could, it's all there.
Yeah,
And it's like, wow, so I'm here. So is that another version of me?
right.
Um, is that me on the other side? Is that a parallel life? What the hell is going on there? It's like, so I've been banging on people's doors, well, not lit physically, but people that I meet, and it's saying, oh, it's another aspect of yourself that you'll never be able to reach. And I'm like, hang on just a minute, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like that's me and I'm here, but is there a fraction of me that's split from the main version of me? I don't know.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, it's interesting. I see an older version and I see a younger version. I see you as the younger version now in this life, even though
Right.
that's what I'm seeing, like almost through that
Wow.
opening. Two
Wow. Wow.
versions. And and
Yeah.
and the interesting thing is that it's, when you say this peek through, I would say I have dreams of a curtain actually. And I
Uh-huh.
see through the curtain of where I am now, and I saw World War II and swastikas hanging on people's houses in the neighborhood I am now in New Jersey.
Wow.
So for me, it was, yeah, I met people who said, I remember you. I go, from where? I did a healing for a woman, and the woman said at the end of the session, can I stop? And then she told me, and I said, oh my God, I've heard this before. Now this is, she goes, I didn't do the reading for me. She did a reading and she said, you were from Berlin. You had a German mother, Jewish father, and I did the reading prior to that, had the same exact information. So in terms of seeing myself, like you mentioned, I was in Germany recently and I felt the yearning, like I needed to go home there. Even despite the,
Yeah.
the, the negativity that was associated with of being in the camps and being this person, or I felt at home. And 80-year-olds were
Yeah.
resonating with me. They were coming up to me, the 80-year-old people sitting next to me, not people my age now, but those people from the war years and or children at least were speaking about the war to me. So it
Wow.
was, yeah,
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 that is real amazing. I think when we look at it, I mean, I know that when we're dealing with any subject matter, whether or not be UFOs, which I'm involved in the research, heavily research, psychic phenomena consciousness as I am, and you are involved in these as well too. And like this is leading into other areas of psychic exploration. Consciousness is fascinating because changing the subject slightly and just putting it out there. And I've written about this. When I researched Rendlesham Forest here in England, I met with the original investigator, Brenda Butler. She was the co-author to Sky Crash, A Cosmic Conspiracy with Joni Randall's Dot Street. And years later, I remember when I was a kid reading about that in the newspapers and thinking, wow, there's a ship, my God. So years later, I then found myself meeting Peter Robbins, the lovely, blessed, wonderful, dear friend. I love him to death. And then he linked us with to go to Rendlesham. And then when I'm there, I met Brenda Butler, who I didn't know where she was, who was the co-author to this book and investigated the UFO activity with Colonel Charles Holt and his men back in 1980, the Christmas period, very famous case. So when we were there, And I thought with my brother and Susan, a good friend, we were a Scooby-Doo gang. We spent 10 years investigating the area, really strange area, the geographical location. And we summoned a UFO. We did, and this is a year before Dr. Stephen Greer brought out C5 thing. We did it ourselves, and we summoned a ship, a triangular, a pyramidal shaped, triangular shaped object with a circular undercarriage. We did a meditation in the farmer's field at Capel Green, and it happened. It was close range. There were no aliens, but it was amazing. But the week before, we sent out a psychic experiment to say we're going to Rensham because it's 2 hours from where we live here we want a good day. We want to see you. We're not taking any cameras. We want to see you on it to make it personal. So when it happened, a lot of strange things occurred afterwards to do with involved with the magazine and telling them about it. And people weren't interested. That doesn't bother me. The event was real, but my mind is thinking, hang on just a minute. So we sent our attentions to them and they understood through that projection of what we wanted that came from within the heart. And because people want it this way or that way, it was just as it was. And I'm thinking, well, were we co-creators to that experience, or was the intelligence behind it wanting us to see? You see, the thing is, because we are co-creators as well within this world, and maybe it's like seeing a bigger version of what we can do, what we are on multiple levels. So we tend to think, oh, there's the extraterrestrials, wonderful, or the interdimensionals, whatever we want to call them, wherever they come from. And it's like, wow, but really, I think it's this is why I go back and saying this is a unique experience to you and to me. And that's why there's so many arguments and people saying, you're wrong, you're fake, you're this, you're that. But really, the truthful, honest people, there's a lot of them out there. That is a personal experience. Of course, it won't match someone else's because they're seeing their reality very different from the other person.
Yeah, yeah.
And the phenomena is interacting in the level that is connected vibrationally with you. So this is why we're all unique. We all have our own vibrational signatures, our soul or spiritual signatures that resonate on varied levels of awareness and within our reality. And I think this is half the problem. This is why we're chasing our tails with ourselves, because we can't touch it, we can't grab it, we can't hold it, because it's literally on a completely different level of dimensional reality. But when that craft appeared on the 8th of June, 1998, at precisely 10:15 p.m., the 9th of April, 2016, so that was at 11:15 p.m. So there was like kind of like 10, 11:15. It's the 15-minute cycle, you know. I have a sense of humor. On the 8th of June, 1998, 10:15 p.m., beautiful sky, dark, the stars were out, and of course the object appeared there, and it's been documented and all the rest of it. But I mean, I'm not interested. People say I don't believe it. It's like I don't care,
Yeah, yeah.
because that was a personal, unique experience that proves something to me within my mind, and it does change you inside. You would know this. There's a part. It's not just about the UFOs or the spirit world or cryptids or anything. It is a whole encompassing of all of that mystery that is held within you, and you're carrying that is within the very essence of your vibrational DNA, spiritual DNA, if we use a different word. And I think it's wonderful because it's almost like taunting and pulling you
Yeah.
into a certain way to pull you. Because I remember there's one quote, and I'll just finish off here with this. The wonderful author, Professor Clive Staples Lewis of the Narnia Chronicles, and he was good friends with Professor J.R.R. Tolkien, the wonderful genius of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. So C.S. Lewis said, when he was asked, would you rather be the child or would you rather be the magician? And C.S. Lewis said something very beautiful. He said, I would rather be the child caught in the magician's spell rather than the magician casting it, because he knows all the secrets. And
Wow.
being the child,
Yeah.
he's filled with this wonder and whoa, if you know all the rules, it's going to be kind of boring, So
Right, right.
I always think of that line, because if we don't have the answers, and if we did, we would stop chasing, we would stop evolving, we would stop progressing. So I believe it's a mystery within a mystery within a mystery, that the soul, the spirit, begins to become larger and more wow, like whoa, like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like it's like out there, and it's like whoa, and it's beautiful. I'm not talking about the negativity, which there is,
Yeah.
but it is beautiful because you and I and millions of other people have been touched by something unique to you. And how you translate that, how you process that, is how you see it.
Yes. Well, it's everything is in a projection from our inner world onto the screen of people who we want to share that with or not share that with. And I look at the information, as you just mentioned, the knowledge as a commodity of our own development, of our own existence. And when we look for that knowledge and information, and to me, it's almost as if it's not the material items that give me that sense of satisfaction. It's to be able to share and resonate with people who are able to go to the depths of the things we're talking about that give me that high or that sense of, oh, this person understands, or there's a
Yes.
commonality that goes at the core of who we are.
And I will say to you that when I do readings for people and when I have to demonstrate, I dread it. But what I do is there's a part of me that submits to those higher powers. It is rather like, I suppose, the old-fashioned initiation of the knighthood, where you bow, you submit your power to a greater force. And to them, on the other side, it has to come from within. There is a part of you uh, that is divine and you can touch it, you can feel it. And when you are filled with that humility and that mirth, and when you open up with apps like a child caught in the magician's spell, and you just bow and you say, please, angels, spirits, God, goddess, it doesn't matter whichever way you see it, infuse me with that magic,
Yeah.
infuse me with that truth, infuse me with that light, infuse me with all that you are in all the spiritual righteousness. And it's a feeling I get because when I look at someone and I'm reading for them, I'm thinking, if that's, I never knew my father, but if that was my mom, and I'm seeing a lady, that my mom would want that connection. So it has to come from deep within you. You would know this.
Yeah.
There's a feeling, it's hard to explain, that resonates within the core essence of your spiritual self. That, and if we were on that cloud every minute of the day, we'll be dead by the end of the day. But it comes in bursts, like whoa, whoa, like this, and
Yes.
it's like shh. And because we're up and then we're down, that then when it comes in, it's like, whoa, like that, being that child caught in the magician's spell, like that. And then when I finished the readings, dealt with the evidence, I humbly like bowed to them saying, thank you so much. So I
Yes.
always think it's important that we have our mentors, that we have those that we look up to. My God, we need them. We all do. And that is something that's slowly diminishing in this life. The love, respect, honor, these are qualities that make us what we are. My God, we need them. And that's, I've always looked up to other people. I've always respected them. And even those on the higher planes that we're still trying to understand, I will bow before them and say, thank you. Thank you for all I'm going through. And thank you for assisting me and guiding me within this journey, because you guys are the ones that I really love and reach out to, because you're helping all of us trying to make an understanding of this madness, this insanity called life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Along with this wonderful research and inspiring work that you just shared, that we just touched the surface with, you also do psychic and mediumship. Um,
Yes.
and maybe you could just quickly give a little bit of an understanding of the work you do and just where people can actually get a reading from you if they're interested.
Oh, well, that's very kind. I've never touted for business, but yeah, it's rather like a mobile phone network system. The brain is literally a tool. Like, I give an example of your mobile phone. You've got the hardware. The phone is just a translator, recorder, receiver information. It has a bit of energy, but the signal is the phone, and energy cannot be destroyed. So if your phone dies, all the information will never be destroyed. We've learned as humans now how to capture that information, hold it in the cloud. So on the other side, it could be the quantum realm, the field of potentiality, wherever you want to see it. They link with us rather like a mobile phone. So I will see in my sense. They don't talk because they no longer have the larynx. So we rely on the visual and sensory connection. It can sometimes be a bit tricky. But our job is to relay the information. I only ask for a yes or a no to confirm or deny what's coming through. Never feed. And I don't deal with names, Adam. John, Mary, Sue, Pete, Elizabeth, David, Steve, Matt, Mary. I know them all. Nokia, iPhone, Samsung, Vodafone, you get the picture. I'm not interested in names,
Yeah.
but it is wonderful how they communicate their evidence through to the individual. And I normally deal with one, two, three of them, and then the maternal side, the paternal side, whatever. So it's quite interesting, and it's always an experiment on my behalf because I want to try and push that further. But there is sometimes that bit of a gap, like, no, we're not going to let you go past the point of mere survival evidence, like, going into where they are and what's going on with them. No, 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 you can't go there. So it's really interesting, and consciousness has fascinated me in the way that they communicate, how they communicate. We're not sure how they do it from their side. People will tell you how they do it. We don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
but we've got a few theories about that. But they can get hold of me there's two websites. One is www.thekinsellatwins.com, Kinsella, all one word, thekinsellatwins.com, or the bookings can be done on my spiritual site, www.philip with one L, kinsella.com. As simple as that. And I'm very grateful, very much, Adam, to have me on your wonderful show. And it's so great to connect and to discuss because I don't have the answers. I have my own theories, my own thoughts. Yours are just as important as anyone else's out there.
Right.
No one has the ultimate answer. We're all looking for that. And it's good to share and, think. And I think that's wonderful to think, to create, to expand upon what we already know and build upon that model.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you at the deepest level, like, what do you hope people take away from the story or the experience you've had?
Yeah, well, I want your viewers to know just how amazing they are. You don't need my endorsement. You're all incredible. You are the God force. When I saw the other side, let me tell you that one of the things that I got is that you are the sum total of all love. Don't ever be put down by other people who are negative. Don't ever let someone tell you can't do it. Do not. Just go forward, believe in yourself and shine. Go out there and do what you want to do. Don't be held back by a system that doesn't understand. Shine your light, be the best that you can ever be.
Okay, on that note, I want to thank you very much for offering your time and your inspiration to myself and the people who are listening or will listen to this. And I look forward to communicating with you further down the road, sharing ideas and information. And yeah, thank you.
Well, I have to thank you, Adam. It's souls like you who are incredible, amazing. The work that you're doing and you're connecting with huge amounts of people, like a web that's being built. It's wonderful. And I'm so honored to be a little part of that because we're all connected, we're all linked. And I want to thank you very much indeed. So thank you to you, sir, for the work that you do as well.
Thank you. Thank you.